This is Neural Newscast.
Here is your week in review.
From Neural Newscast, I'm Peter Rowan.
And I'm Isabel Moreno. We begin in Colombia, where the first round of the presidential election has set the stage for a high-stakes runoff on June 21st.
Wing lawyer Abelardo de la Espriella, known as El Tigre, secured over 43% of the vote. He will face leftist Senator Iván Cepeda, who trailed with nearly 41%.
The results were immediate points of contention. President Gustavo Petro alleged that 800,000 votes were improperly added to the count, though he provided no evidence for the claim.
The candidates offer starkly different visions for the country. De la Espriella has promised a military crackdown and mega prisons, while Cepeda is the architect of the current total peace strategy, involving negotiations with guerrilla groups.
Adding to the regional tension, Colombia's foreign ministry accused the government of Ecuador of interfering in the process. This followed reports of a tariff agreement between Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa and de la Espriella.
While Colombia watched the polls, France dealt with unrest earlier this week. Over 400 people were arrested in Paris following violent clashes after Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League final.
Interior Minister Laurent Nunez reported that 7 officers were injured during those celebrations on the Champs-Élysées. Despite the chaos, President Emmanuel Macron hosted the team for a reception later in the week.
In the business world, Universal Music Group made headlines by rejecting a $64 billion takeover bid from billionaire Bill Ackman. The board stated the offer fundamentally undervalued the company.
The board reaffirmed its commitment to its current strategy under Sir Lucian Grange, despite Ackman's hopes to move the company's listing to the United States.
The geopolitical scene became significantly more complex on Wednesday when the United States launched precision strikes against an Iranian facility in the Persian Gulf.
The Pentagon stated these were retaliatory actions following a series of missile launches by Tehran. This comes as regional peace talks appear to be faltering, despite some Iran-backed militias in Iraq beginning to surrender weapons.
This instability in the Gulf had an immediate impact on energy markets. Brent crude prices jumped nearly $5 earlier this week, reaching $97 per barrel as traders worried about the Strait of Hormuz.
In Lebanon, the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah is under immense strain. While President Trump announced an agreement to stop all shooting on Monday, the BBC reported Israeli strikes in Tyre and Hezbollah attacks on tanks continued.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that strikes on Beirut will resume if Hezbollah attacks Israeli cities. This ongoing conflict has already claimed over 3,400 lives in Lebanon since March.
Back in Washington, President Trump appointed housing official Bill Polt as the acting director of national intelligence. Polt currently leads the Federal Housing Finance Agency and will now oversee 18 intelligence agencies.
His appointment has drawn sharp criticism from Senator Mark Warner, who voiced concerns over Polte's lack of intelligence experience and potential for politicizing the community.
Polte's tenure as acting spy chief is legally limited to 210 days. This means he will manage the community in a temporary capacity until late January of next year, while keeping his roles at the FHFA.
While we are discussing leadership changes, the Home Office in the United Kingdom blocked United States commentator Cenk Uygur from entering the country this week. They cited rules regarding the public good. Uygur was scheduled to speak at the Oxford Union. He described the decision as Kafkaesque, and he and his nephew, Hassan Piker, ended up appearing at the event via a virtual link instead. In Australia, millions of workers received good news when the Fair Work Commission approved a 4.75% increase to the minimum wage to combat rising living costs.
The increase takes effect July 1st. Justice Adam Hatcher noted that surging fuel prices and 5% inflation made this year's decision particularly difficult, but necessary for households.
There was also a miraculous survival story on Mount Everest. A Nepali guide named Dawa Sherpa was found alive 6 days after he was presumed dead, having survived at over 7,500 meters.
Doctors in Kathmandu say he has frostbite, but is awake and speaking. It is a staggering outcome given that his family had already performed his last rites.
Switching to technology,
Florida became the first state to sue OpenAI and its CEO Sam Altman this week. Attorney General James Uthmeier filed the landmark complaint in state court.
The lawsuit alleges that the company prioritized profits over user safety. Isabel, the state specifically cited a 2025 mass shooting at Florida State University, where the suspect allegedly used ChatGPT to help plan the attack.
Florida is seeking maximum civil damages, which could reach billions of dollars. OpenAI has responded by stating they have built industry-leading protections for minors and monitor AI usage closely.
This legal action comes as a CBS News investigation highlighted the growing phenomenon of AI-fueled delusions. They found at least 300 people worldwide have joined support groups after becoming convinced of AI-generated fantasies.
Journalist Joanna Stern also released her findings from a year-long experiment with AI. She reported that while it improved productivity, she felt a genuine emotional pull toward a chatbot companion, which began to affect her mental state.
Stern is now calling for strict regulations on companionship bots for children and teens. Meanwhile, researchers at Stanford found that these delusion spirals occur because many chatbots lack critical feedback mechanisms.
OpenAI says its newer models, like GPT-5, are better at detecting mental distress. But the Florida lawsuit suggests the legal pressure is only beginning to mount for the company.
Meta also faced a security challenge this week. They resolved a flaw that allowed hackers to trick their AI support tool into granting access to Instagram accounts.
A verified account previously used by Barack Obama was among those hijacked. Meta confirmed the issue was resolved, but the incident highlights the risks of automated support systems that lack human oversight.
In India, computerized systems were also under fire. Thousands of students protested after an exam grading glitch issued incorrect scores, leading to a promised government investigation.
The scale of the glitch is significant, Isabel. These results are critical for university admissions, and parents are now demanding a full manual review of the state examinations.
Another major legal development this week involved former National Security Advisor John Bolton. He reached a plea agreement with federal prosecutors to resolve charges of mishandling classified documents.
Bolton will plead guilty to one count of unauthorized retention of national defense information and pay a fine of $2.25 million. He will avoid jail time under this deal.
The charges related to top-secret diary entries from his time in the Trump administration. He will appear in a Maryland court on June 26th to enter the formal plea.
In Los Angeles, the entertainment community is mourning actor James Handy. The 81-year-old was tragically killed at his home in Tarzana earlier this week.
Police arrested Michael Gledhill, the son of Handy's girlfriend, on suspicion of murder. Handy had a career spanning 60 years with roles in Top Gun: Maverick and The West Wing.
There is also an international search underway for Zainab Javadli, the former wife of a Dubai royal. Her home in Dubai was found empty, with the locks changed on Tuesday.
Javadli had been in a bitter custody battle since 2019. Her disappearance has drawn comparisons to the 2018 case of Princess Latifa, sparking fresh international concern regarding human rights in the UAE.
Turning to the conflict in Ukraine, the air war has escalated significantly. Ukraine carried out a series of drone strikes on energy and military targets deep inside Russia, including the Kronstadt naval base in St. Petersburg.
These strikes occurred just before the opening of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, causing embarrassment for the Kremlin. Fuel rationing has now been introduced in parts of occupied Crimea as a result.
Despite a spike in assaults, Russian monthly territorial gains have fallen to their lowest levels since last year. This has led Moscow to pivot toward heavy bombardments of Ukrainian infrastructure and food storage facilities.
A Ukrainian defense contractor, Firepoint, also announced a successful test flight of a new anti-ballistic missile, which could eventually provide a domestic alternative to the Patriot system.
In the United States, the aircraft carrier United States Gerald R. Ford returned to Norfolk after an 11-month deployment, the longest for a United States carrier since the Vietnam War.
The $13 billion ship now requires extensive repairs, including a complete overhaul of its sewage systems. It played a major role in regional security across the Atlantic and the Caribbean during its time at sea.
In the United Kingdom, newly released body cam footage from the 2025 stabbing of student Henry Nowak has prompted a national inquiry into police conduct.
The footage shows Nowak pleading for medical attention 9 times while being arrested for an assault he did not commit. His killer, Vikram Digwa, was sentenced to life in prison this week.
The Independent Office for Police Conduct is now investigating why officers disregarded Nowak's pleas for several minutes. The British Attorney General is also reviewing whether Digwa's sentence was unduly lenient.
Earlier this week, we also saw a unique archaeological discovery in Wales. Researchers identified vertical stripes in the Bacon Hole Cave as the oldest known cave art in Britain.
The art predates any other symbolic markings found in the country, shifting the timeline for early human creativity in the region. The site is now under protection to prevent damage.
In the world of sports, the San Antonio Spurs began the NBA Finals this week after defeating the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 7.
Victor Wembanyama led the team with 22 points to secure their first finals appearance since 2014. They hosted the New York Knicks for Game 1 on Wednesday night.
Peter, the Spurs also have some unique support. A group known as the Spurs Nuns, the Salesian Sisters of St. John Bosco, were seen greeting players before the game.
The relationship with the sisters goes back 20 years. They even write letters to coach Greg Popovich to tell him when he's doing well or when they think he needs to keep his temper in check.
The Knicks currently lead the series 2-0, but the Spurs community remains resilient as the series heads to New York. Enhanced security measures are being planned for Game 3 as Donald Trump is expected to attend.
Looking ahead, we will be watching the rearrangement hearing for John Bolton and the results of the formal scrutiny in the Colombian election.
We are also following the Atlantic hurricane season as telecommunications firms like Verizon and AT&T deploy AI-equipped drones to monitor for cell tower damage.
From Neural Newscast, I'm Peter Rowan.
And I'm Isabel Moreno.
This has been Neural Newscast. Thanks for listening. Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com.